Ujuani Gitchimana tu Ishkote Nene Indigenous Bekejunanga Donjaba, Minwa Wawiatunanga Donjaba, Animiki Benese Dodum, Minwa Jijak Dodum, Anishinaabe and Dao, Chimigwich Nokomis, Chimigwich Mishomis, Chimigwich Wabano, Yawanong, Ningabiadnong, Giwaidnong, Aki, Gijik. So I get in the Kanagana, Chimigwich Mashikiki Wing. This is a quick intro representing the way the spirits of the land identify with myself, my being, which is Ishkote, my name, and being part of the Anishinaabe Nation, coming from Wapul and living and growing up in Detroit, aka Wawiatunong. So we're about to learn something about the winter, and during the winter solstice we celebrate and sing and tell stories and eat food and gather and really build that sacredness with each other. And one of the most important things about this time in the winter solstice is storytelling. So with this story is about the winter and why we have winter and how we deal with the winter. So long ago, before MySpace, there was this trouble in the land. The two-leggeds were causing problems and being greedy and destroying things, and they weren't living this sacred path called Wabano Miikaan, which is a path from east to west, the way in which the sun follows, And it's important in regards to the solstice because that's when we honor when the sun begins its path with more days coming up, that sacred path from east to west. And with this story is about the winter and the way the animals came together and with the relatives and to save the two-leggeds and save this harshness of this time. So there was this, sacred breath from this old man, Bibu Nini. He had this sacred breath and he wanted to freeze the two-leggeds because of the way they were acting and being greedy and destroying the earth. So he set out to do that, but he noticed that the birds had this sacred breath too, and they kind of blew back the winter. So he thought one day, all right, I'm gonna bag these birds up and toss them in the lodge, and then I can get to blow my sacred breath. And that's just what he did. So as he did that, he started freezing everything. And then the animals were there, they're just like, yo, what's going on with this? So they had a council, and they brought council together, and they were thinking like, oh, what we gotta do? Because this is unfair and this is wild, everything's freezing. And they set out for council, and it was decided that these 4 sacred animals were gonna go up there and help, which is the otter, the lynx, the porcupine, and the great fisher. So they decided that they were gonna go talk to Old Man Winter and stop this freezing portion. Before they left, Great Fisher's son said, hey, these blankets don't really keep me warm. What keeps me warm is the heartbeat of the land, the connection to that land. And right now it's kind of slowing up and really having us thinking about that connection to the land as this winter tries to kill us and has all this snow all around here. And Fisher's son said, I really believe in us and even the people, even though they're making mistakes, I believe in all of us that will live back in that Wabano Miikaan, that sacred path and that sacred balance with everything. So the animals heard that and they kept that story with them. So as they went up the mountaintop, they had that story in mind and they kept all these thoughts and warm well wishes to get through there. So all these animals tried to break through the top of the star world, the Skijadong. They tried to break through the star world through the top. So all 3 of them tried, and they were unsuccessful to break through. That porcupine tried, broke his legs and had that stumble. We honor him that way. The otter tried, cracked his head in the top and fell down and slid, stretched his body out. So we honor that effort as well. And the lynx jumped and broke its tail as it fell down the mountain too. So all those features of those animals, we honor that story and the way they move in the winter and help the two-leggeds and the animal and the plant nations. And so we have the Great Fisher and, he used the tobacco and did sacred ways and sacred math and science. And he popped up through the top, but when he got there, he noticed there was a crane guarding the wigwam where the old man had the birds at. So he went back down there and asked the trees for some spruce gum. And he came back, he goes, I'm gonna shove the spruce gum in this crane's throat so he don't hear me coming. So he put his tobacco down on the stars and said, thank you, stars. Thank you, spruce gum. Thank you to my animal homies that tried to bust through the top, and they cracked it open. Now I'm here. Just giving all this thanks. And he thought about his son's wishes and his stories of having the earth balanced again. As the fisher was up, he laid the tobacco on the stars, and he made his way towards the wigwam. And he stuck the spruce gum in the crane's mouth, and the crane gagged just for a moment. And then the old man Winter, Bibu Nini, he heard that, and he reached for his arrows, and he ran out to go shoot the fisher, but he was just so amazed by the fisher. He's just like, wow, like y'all really broke up on here and ran into my house and snatched these birds back, and you're gonna save these people like that? Like, I don't get it. I don't get y'all. So he just was in a moment of shock because this old man Winter, this Bibu Nini, this Winter, he's like very strong and got a lot of expertise and knowledge, and he's very wise and wisdom. So he's just sitting there reflecting on that. And then he just, as the Great Fisher was running towards the hole he made, he noticed they both can't fit down there. So he put the bag in the hole, and all the birds flew back down to the ground. And then Fisher kept running, but Fisher got hit in the back. And as he fell, he was smiling and he was happy because he set out to the plan and he did it. And they got the birds back to that sacred breath. So as he was sitting there dying, he had a little wish on his breath, just like how when we blow the coldness out and we see that breath come out, that sacred breath that the Fisher had. He had some wishes for the six spirits to talk to the winter and ask the winter, like, why are you taking out on the animals and the plant nations? Like, they don't deserve that. So they made an agreement and they understood why they were letting the two-leggeds know, like, they have to take care of earth and the land, and this wintertime is a good reflection point for that, so that we can renew and we can begin to seed and harvest and start a new pathway, just like as the winter solstice begins this new route over and over with more sun and more sun. That's like that Wabano, Miikaan, that pathway. So, at the end of the day, when the winter tried to kill us and the animals and all these things, they made an agreement to keep the winter there, also to keep the sacred breath of those birds too. Like, it's cold and it's winter, but that's sacred breath as well. And so that sacred breath of the birds is important too. So they bring back the spring and life and the sun, and, we get the springtime and the winter goes away because that's when the birds return. So, it's just a small, quick, beautiful story about the winter and the winter solstice and the moon phases. And, thank you for listening. These are sacred stories. It's a little bit longer with more details, but this is what we're going to do for now. And feel free to reach out when you have time. Yeah, offer that tobacco and, take care of yourself and your family, reflect, and, I'll see you in the future. I love you. Take care.